Hey guys, and welcome to the Service Alliance podcast. I am your host with the most equipment, Zach Kreider. And I have a special guest today. He's joined us on our morning grind with the mastermind. And he asked me a question the other day about doing a podcast talking about health. And I said, why don't you come on with me and we'll talk about it together? So without further ado, my good friend Bob. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So you have a varied experience as far as this topic goes, but let's start with the important. Who are you? Why should we care? And how long have you been in the industry?
Great. My name is Bob Wennerstrom. I run Blue Streak Appliance out of Bayfield, Colorado. I started doing this on my own in 1990 about. Ran solo with my own truck for, I don't know, until about 10 years ago. Attended my first ASPI on being challenged by Paul McDonald to kind of broaden my experience and maybe change some of my set ideas on things, and did that. It's kind of challenged to grow my business. So I thought that was something I wanted to try. So I've done that recently. And now I've got one office staff and myself is in the office. I kind of refuse to get in the truck anymore. I've got two field techs. I've usually got one. I sell used appliances, so I've got one shop tech right now who's off on. He's hurt, but I think he'll be coming back soon. So
I think that's a good start. That's a good experience. You've been in a long time. You're not new to it, that's for sure. Yeah. You are not new to it. So, and you have a recovery background as well, just like me. And one of the things that this type of industry, it's hard on you, especially when you're in the truck. So talk about your experience with that. Like what motivated you to begin making changes, right? At some point you felt like trash while on the road and started to make some changes.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. Like my recovery experience and my growth in my business were they're symbiotic in some ways. Like the very first ASTI I went to, I had not stopped drinking yet, and so it was kind of interesting. Like these things kind of all fell together in my life at the same time. Like this kind of realizing that I wanted to be different, wanted to be better, wanted to grow and do things differently, and realizing that I couldn't continue to drink the way I was doing it and have those things manifest in my life. And so it just it dawned on me, and I was seeing a therapist at the time, that this was going to have to go. And I had this shocking realization that when I really tried to stop drinking, that I was unable to do it on my own. I was really shocked because I always thought, I could quit anytime. I just don't want to quit. And so I ended up getting help, in a recovery community, and I've stayed pretty active in that community throughout these last, I've got 9 years now. So, and so that was the big thing for me. I was always able to take a lot of time off, when I was up by myself. I built my own house. I was able to spend time with my kids. But when I became, when I started growing the business, things started to get really hectic and really interesting really quick. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we find that those moments of growth do end up becoming symbiotic with each other in some way, shape, or form, right? Yeah. So, I mean, my background, for those that haven't heard it before, almost 4 years ago, 2018, we're in 2022, 2018, towards the end of the year, I just got to a point where I was over 300 pounds. I just felt like crap all the time. I had already been on the road for several years. Fast food, energy drinks, more coffee than, a human should consume. I was drinking something to the tune of like 128 ounces of coffee every day with cream and sugar and everything else, and then energy drinks, and then anything else. And that was just to like keep my energy even keel, like not fall asleep while behind the wheel. There comes a crash. So you can only hold that pace for so long, right? And like, it was a miracle that I didn't have a heart attack, but what prompted it was we were moving some flooring for our new shop space. And man, after doing that, it was not that much work. My heart rate was over 200. I was on the verge of a heart attack. Like, and I went, I'm done. Like, enough is enough. And I reached out to my cousin. I'm like, hey, I don't know what you've been doing, because him and I, we always kind of like yo-yo dieted together or whatever. Like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't care. Where's the dotted line? Because like, if I don't make a change, I'm dead, you know? And I know when I went into recovery, you know, my recovery was not necessarily that dramatic. I struggle with codependency. So I went through for codependency, which removed a lot of other stuff. But with the food, with the diet, with the health concerns, it was like, this is do or die, right? Like, I have to make a change. There's no way around this. And so I did. I got hooked up with a health coach. I went through the program. I lost 120 pounds in 6 months. And then I started coaching myself. I became a certified health coach. I went through the process myself, helping others. And I mean, there's just so much value in that. And then, you know how it is, Bob, like with any program, there is a structure. And when you're plugged in, when you're patched in, coach, sponsor, whatever, there's a power to that. There's a power to community. Well, as soon as I started unplugging from the community and unplugging from my coach, started making a slide backwards. So I made it all the way through COVID without having any issues. And then halfway through 21, I just let stress and all the other crap of running a business just take hold. And I came back up 50 pounds. About 3 weeks ago now, we're end of March of 2022. And about 3 weeks ago, I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm tired of playing around. I'm getting patched back into community. I'm getting patched back into my coach. Let's get this thing rolling. And I've started coaching again. It's good being structure. So what we're talking about today is these different things. We're coming from a place of what we've done has worked for us. So we'll share more in depth of our experiences with what we've done for our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, these different things along the way. We're speaking from a point of authority as far as this is what's worked for me. Find something that works for you, right? So, Bob, what's been the most beneficial for you in your journey to a better, like, healthy state overall?
Yeah. I gotta give like emotional and spiritual credit to my recovery program. That is really what keeps me on track emotionally and spiritually, for sure. I didn't really have a spiritual life before recovery, and so that's a big change for me, a great big change for me. And physically, just kind of, they say when you straighten out emotionally and spiritually, physically you start to straighten out just automatically. And so I kind of had a little bit of dabbling in yoga before I got sober, and I started to like make a habit of that. So I started like doing that almost every day. And so today I still do it almost every day. I call it more stretching really than yoga. But I set the timer for a half an hour. I try to do it. I try to do it every day. I usually make 5 days a week. Early in the morning, I get up I would read all these guys like Tony Robbins and stuff that says this is what successful people do. They get up 2 or 3 hours before everybody else in the morning, and they do stuff like they work on their business, they work on their health, they work on their emotional and spiritual fitness. And so I started doing that, and it helps a lot. I was still in the truck for a little while I was doing this, and I was amazed that I was in my 40s, and how much easier I could get behind appliances, how much easier I could bend down to pick stuff up, how much more finesse I had when my arm was stuck, 18 inches into something and I couldn't see what I was doing and I was going backwards, that I could just kind of breathe and I could get a bolt threaded or something like that. So much easier when you do it, like when you're trying to stand on one leg, in yoga, and like these little things that it's an amazing how much of a physical difference that made in my job when I was still in the truck.
My team used to call it appliance yoga because even before I lost the weight, I could like fold my leg up and like just end up behind a washing machine somehow. But yeah, it gets way easier once you've lost the weight and you gain the flexibility and stuff like that. Makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So yoga's been big for me. What else have I, about 2-3 years ago, about maybe 2 years ago, I got into this book. It's by, his last name's Fung. It's a fasting book, and it's like I was kind of interested in this idea of fasting and what this is all about. So I got the book, and it was in its shrink wrap from Amazon, and I put it on the bookshelf, and I didn't touch it for like 6 months. I didn't even unshrink wrap it. And so after about 6 or 8 months, I took the book back off. I cut the shrink wrap off it, and I read the book, and I was like, for some reason, there was a ton of fear going on with this thing. For some reason, I thought, if I can't eat, all the time, every day, even though I kind of had this idea it'd be good for me, I'm gonna suffer. And so I read the book and I decided, I'm gonna try not eating every day until noon. So he has this idea of intermittent fasting as one of the ways you can do this. And so I, eat until whatever, 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and I wouldn't eat till noon. And I was like, hey, I can skip breakfast. This is kind of cool. So I started pushing it to 2 o'clock. So right now I'm not eating between 2 and 8 I'm only eating between 2 and 8 o'clock every night, and I'm not eating between about 8 or 8:30 and 2 o'clock every day. And it's, some days I cheat, and some days I go out and have breakfast or whatever. But I've learned that I can go through hunger periods without too much problem. That was a big learning thing for me. And when I used to drink coffee, like you say, with sugar and cream in it, and he's like, you give your body a little break from any sort of calories for a little bit every day. So I had to cut out the sugar. That Dunkin' Donuts creamer was my favorite. And so I had to cut that out. I could put a little half and half in my coffee, but so I'm doing that now. And so right now, as we speak, so I was scared to do this. And right now I am I'm 28 hours into a 72-hour fast. So I decided I was going to do 3 days. This has taken me 3 years to get enough courage to do 3 days of not eating. And, I went through the first day. I was a little groggy last night, but I was okay. I didn't eat for 24 hours. I didn't eat any breakfast. And here we are at lunchtime, and my stomach's growling a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. And I like to see what happens to my mind when I do this. It's like, I need food because I need a reward. I need food because I'm bored. It's like food is a really weird thing for me. And you don't learn these things unless you experiment with it. So we'll see. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, I'm looking forward to my miso soup and tomatoes and avocado. So
yeah, you don't know what affects your body either until you go through some type of purge, cleanse, whatever, in whatever form it is, right? I've only been drinking black coffee since we started program. So like during the weight loss phase for me, I completely cut out coffee. I didn't have any caffeine. Like I didn't even drink tea. I did only Powerade Zero because it helps with headaches. And they're getting rid of Powerade Zero, which makes me so angry. So angry about that. I love Powerade Zero. So yeah, Powerade Zero and water. Like I was drinking over 200 ounces, which if you're on the road and drinking 200 ounces of water, the first 2 months is a real bear. And then after that, your body kind of levels out and it gets used to what you need to do for the correct amount of water that you're drinking every day. It's typically about half your body weight you should be drinking in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, you should be drinking about 100 ounces every day. Or so they say. So that's kind of the rule of thumb that I've always followed. So I'm drinking 125 ounces of water right now, so it was interesting to do that. But the way our program works, it's like, at least the food portion, right? Because we have 4 components in the program that I work, the health program that I work and coach for. So the food component is like low carb. The sugars are like basically non-existent. And it is packaged and pre-done for you, mostly for convenience. And then you do whole food, like a lean and green kind of thing. So some servings of some like vegetable, non-starchy vegetable, and then some type of lean protein or whatever. There was actually a post in the Appliance Alliance group about someone not feeling eating meat or something like that. Or it was one of the people from the group had posted on their page. They're like, yeah, I'm just not feeling eating meat. Like, I think I'm ready to give it up or whatever. It's like, well, I mean, I've been eating shrimp and chicken and egg whites since we started. Like, I hardly ever have red meat anymore, But anyway, so in that process, like you're purging your body, you're resetting your gut health, because we have a ton of probiotics in our food.
Right.
And so you end up with this gut health thing. And then so at the end of it, I had avoided dairy because like you could have like minimal amounts of dairy on the program, but it was like minimal. I'm like, I'm just not even messing with it. It's just not worth it, because cheese was my vice. Like I'd eat cheese and it like a whole brick would disappear, or, you get them cheese curd packages or whatever. I could eat an entire bag of cheese. It's like 2,000 calories or something like that of cheese in 5 minutes. But so no, like I'm like, my goals are bigger than the rest of this, right? So I'm just not going to do this. So afterwards, I go to have some cheese, and I went, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. Like it did not sit in my stomach well. I had tried to have a glass of like regular milk. I'd only had like some soy milk or almond milk or whatever. Like, man, this is crazy. So in that, I learned that I am sensitive to lactose. Like, lactose is a problem for me, and I had no idea. I just went, 30 something years feeling like crap all the time and had no idea why, until, I did some type of purge. You can do it with a fast. You'll find out after a fast, if you slowly introduce things back in, you'll find out what was causing your issues real quick. So just kind of cool little things that you learn along the way. And have you found that as you've gotten healthier, like you have more energy, more motion, like you end up wanting to either exercise more or, even take a walk or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not a big cardio kind of exercise guy yet. My doctor has been telling me, hey, you should kind of integrate some of that. But for energy, I find that, no, I don't need nearly as much sleep as I thought I needed. It's just amazing how much I can get done on, 6 hours, 7 hours of sleep. That's just all I need, a lot of times. But what you were sharing about, your lactose intolerance, I've had this thing that's been going on now for a few weeks where I try to do that yoga in the morning and I move from like plank to a push-up position or whatever, and there's something going on and I'm stiff and I'm inflamed and I'm like, man, there is something going on here. And I think it's something I'm eating, because I got up this morning and I didn't feel any of that. So I don't know what it is, but I get into these bad habits of like these foods and then I eat them over and over and over again, a lot like what you're sharing.
We encourage people to food journal. Yeah, food journal, and like slowly introduce stuff back in. That's part of our program. That's part of the education piece.
This is exactly what I needed to hear now, because I want to know what it is that's setting me off. And so now I'm going to make it, because of your little tip here, I'm going to make a journal as I'm coming out of this, and I'm going to see what it is that's making me feel like crap, because it's something. I'm pretty sure it's diet related.
Yeah, and if you know what your diet was before, it's a lot easier. If you tracked along the way before, it's a lot easier. But you can do it. More than likely, it's not the proteins and stuff like that you're eating. It's hard to say, but I'd say for most people, it's not a protein thing. It's like a dairy or a particular
wheat is another one that can do
wheat.
it, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's very few people who are truly like need to be gluten free, but there are some people that have like a sensitivity. So if you get beyond a threshold, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Or the processed, what is it? The processed flour. We found a lot of people that have a problem with like that bleached and like, and so much like, especially fast food. It's all bleached and processed, and it's crazy what happens when you begin to cut that stuff out. So
I eat pretty healthy, I eat a lot of nuts. I do eat a little too much chocolate, but when I do eat out, it's usually in a restaurant, or I'll get a bean burrito or something like that. It's very rarely that I eat that stuff. I found that as I get older, I think I'm considerably much older than you are, that it just forces you to do that if you want to feel decent. It's like you eat something like that, it's like, oh, that wasn't worth it. That hamburger and French fries was not worth the way I'm feeling right now.
I just turned 37. I feel better than I did in my 20s.
Yeah.
Like way better than I did in my 20s.
Yeah. Wait till you get in your 50s and you're going to realize that it's
well, see, that's the thing about, like, for me, the program that I'm on, it's literally healthy habits for a lifetime. So, one of my friends who's a health coach, she just turned 50, and she's been blasting it all over her Facebook. And she's gone on Facebook Live and been like, I feel better now in my 50s than I did when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s. She's like, I feel so much better. It's crazy. It's if you begin to take steps in your life and you begin to make these changes, you will feel better. Conversely, especially in the service industry, you ain't taking care of your body in any way, it's going to give up on you. You're going to lose that race every time.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've seen it. I've been around the industry 10 years. I've been around the appliance industry 10 years, and I've seen more guys just give up to ghost,
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it across your career too.
Yeah. When my tech wrecked his van, I had to clear it all out. He was in the hospital because he was hurt really bad. And I must have found 40 Red Bull cans in there, And I'm like, man, I mean, I would have one once in a while just for fun, I'll drink one, maybe once a week or something like that, or once every 2 weeks. But just, he's making that. I think it's a natural thing. As you're a technician, you're rolling in the van, you got a bunch of service calls to run that day. It's like, I don't have time to eat healthy. I don't have time to drink healthy. I need energy. So it's just a real easy habit to get into. I talked to a guy named Brian Taylor. He's on one of our groups, and he said he's a real healthy guy, and he would purposely make a bag of snacks like carrot sticks, celery sticks, and some stuff like that. And he would put that in his van in the morning, and that was his lunch. And that kept him out of the fast food places, because he said he was just as tempted as all the rest of us, as you're trying to get a lot of stuff done that day to eat that way.
That's why I fell in love with the program that I fell in love with. I mean, it just, honestly, like for me, I eat 6 times a day. I eat every 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on the day, depending on how I'm feeling, but every 2.5 to 3 hours. I have 5 of our, now because I'm on our health plan portion of the program. The program's holistic, but I'm on the actual diet, the food portion of what we're doing. I eat 5 of our prepackaged things throughout the day, and then I have my one lean ingredient as I'm going through fat burn and the burn phase. And like, it's just convenience.
Yeah.
And then we transition off. So when I transition off, though, I will still probably use more fuelings than not, because if I'm on the road or I'm traveling, that's what I really love it for, is like traveling. I have to think about it. I don't have to eat out. I don't have to do anything. I bring my fuelings with me. I can pack them in my carry-on. Down at ASTI, I was able to have my shakes and my bars and all that stuff. I was able to go through the whole week without spending a crap load of money.
Yeah.
Because I was on my program.
Appreciate the simplicity of that and the formula of that. I can totally appreciate that, because as soon as you turn me loose to start making my own food, it's like, well, if one peanut butter sandwich is good and that's allowed, then two peanut
must
butter
be better.
sandwiches,
Yeah.
or if I could just put it on a little thicker, or maybe, yeah, it's that discipline thing is difficult for me, and I like that formula that you got. It's easy
Well, and
to,
I mean, that's the thing with anything that you do, there has to be some type of habit change, right? I've shared before in our morning grind, like if I'm going to be we're slave to habit. We just are. Like once we get through childhood, we are a slave to habit. You slave to good habit or bad habit?
right.
It's a dealer's choice, right? But I choose to be slave to good habit. So for me, it's making sure that I eat the right things. It's making sure that I lean into the program and follow the education portion and look at why you shared it earlier. You kind of hit on it earlier. Food was an emotional thing for you, right?
Yeah.
So once you began to process through that, then you were able to kind of release a little bit of that hold and release a little bit of that hold. And I think for so many of us that are in the service industry, it literally is just that. It is just habit. Like you're in a truck and I need the energy and I need it fast and I got to get to my next customer, and you just fall into bad habit. And then bad habit just becomes a hole you can't crawl out of.
Yeah. Yeah. All the changes I've ever made in my life is because I've experienced extreme pain usually, Yeah, and that's another thing that I've heard that's true for me. It's like anything I've ever let go of, it has scratch marks on it. So those old habits, it's like, oh wait,
I need this thing.
I know.
Don't take it away from me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, really recovery principle, right? Like we aren't willing to change until the
Very few
pain
people.
outweighs.
Yeah. Otherwise, why would I?
Right. Yeah. If the pain of what you're in doesn't outweigh the pain of change,
yeah,
doesn't matter.
I think theoretically, as you get more connected, more spiritually aware, I think that can get better. I think the pain that I've been willing to put up with has been less, and I see it earlier coming on. It's like, oh no, this is really not the path I want to be going on. I don't have to take it like what you just shared. You did not have to go put all that weight back on before you said, hey, look, this is not what I want to be doing. You caught yourself before you fell all the way back down to where you used to be. So
right.
I think that's great.
Right. Well, and that's a process. You have to begin to learn who you are and what works. And that's the whole point of this. I have a program that works for me. Bob has a process that's been working for him. Like we're not telling you have to do one thing or another, but do something. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
You want to keep running the hamster wheel. Okay, go for it. But here's the outcome of what happens. We've both experienced the outcome of what happens when you just keep going on the hamster wheel. And we finally got to a point that we had to make a change. That's all we're encouraging. You're tired of running on the hamster wheel. Find a way. Find someone, a program, a coach, whatever. I don't know what else is out there. Go. You need accountability though. Like for me, I don't know about for you. You went through recovery, like sponsor. I still check in with my sponsor.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't have that. I don't have that in my health. I don't have that in my diet area like you have it in your diet area. Something that it's occurred to me as we're talking here, and something that occurred to me at ASDI, listen to all these different business guys and how many different ways there are to do appliance repair and to do it successfully. And listen to your story, how you're eating 6 times a day and I'm not eating in a 10-hour window or whatever. There's so many different ways you can do this, and everybody gets to find their own way. But like you said, you got to do something, because if I'm running on autopilot, and especially for me, that like if something feels good, I want more of it. It doesn't matter what it is. And I have a problem with shopping now, but I won't buy new stuff. I'll go to the thrift store and buy used stuff, but I still like the feeling it gives me to buy used stuff. I shared on Facebook, I have 300 CD carousels right now, right? I don't need 6 old 1980s, 1990s Sony, but every time I buy one, it gives me that feeling again, right? So I'm still just as sick as the normal guy. It seems like my habits have gotten less destructive. I'm not going out and buying $3,000 things. I'm out buying $40 things. But
Right. It's a
it's so
process, though. It's a
yeah.
process.
The road gets narrower for me. Where I started a long time ago and where I'm at now, the road is just gradually gets a little bit narrower. So
That's and that's the other piece of what I do. I believe in coaches for, everything. Like, get a coach, get a community around you too, right? Like I I love what we do in our communities. I love what we do in Appliance Alliance, the CSR Alliance, all that stuff. Like having that community of people around you that are swimming in the same direction is awesome. We may all have different ways of approaching it, but we're together in community where we have this common bond, right? That's why I like my health program, because I'm in community, right? When I'm plugged into the community, I'm around a bunch of people who just want to be healthy, and they know that, that path is narrowing, right? I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was either,
yeah.
And so having that community support around you, and then having coaches, right? So I'm going through a boot camp right now, because this is health as a whole. Going through a boot camp right now for mindset. I'm doing a habit finder. It's called Rainmaker, and it's geared towards sales, but a lot of it is a look inside of you and what processes and what thought patterns are harming you as you're trying to work through your business. So I have a coach and a small community that we're working through these processes together. I have a health coach that I check in with. I have a sponsor that I check in with. And I have communities that I check in with. So that's a theme. It's accountability.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be part of this mastermind thing that's kicking off next month. I tried to be part of a peer group before and it kind of fell apart and didn't work. So to me, this is going to be some coaching and some community in my appliance repair part of my life that I've been lacking, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think, thanks for setting that thing up for us.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be a part of that. I'm excited that you got to be in part of that kind of beta group that we're launching with our mastermind as we find. Because like the four of us that did it, EJ and TK and Justin and myself, like we just got so much out of it, and we just like created such a strong bond. And I know not every community or every mastermind is going to be like that, but there is this sense of we have a common purpose. Every single one of us wants to do something in our business. We want to level up, right? Doesn't mean we necessarily, because you and I have talked, it doesn't mean I want to add 20 technicians and run a gigantic business, but there's some area in my business that I want to level up, that I want to be better in. So no matter where you are and what you're trying to learn, all four of you in that group are trying to level up and trying to be better in some area, and you're going to get something out of it. And I love that.
And in my experience, my personal growth and my business growth go right hand in hand. Like the more I learn in my business, like this whole hiring thing that I had to learn how to do starting 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, did I learn some personal lessons about codependency, about trying to please people, about, not letting people go, calling Dean Landers on the phone. What's that? He's like telling me, well, is holding on to that person. What does everyone else in your business think when you're holding on to this person that's not doing their job? It's like, oh, I never thought about that. I just thought that they'd be mad at me if I fired him, and these things that I had to learn, and so that's a personal lesson I learned through a business avenue, so the things go hand in hand to me, personal and business growth.
That was kind of how this conversation really got kicked off. Was we were having a conversation about that topic. We were having a conversation about people in the business that just you got a cancer in the business, you got to let it go, and mindsets can be the same way too. But yeah, personal growth is directly tied to anything else that we do in our lives, right? If we're improving ourselves, everything around us tends to improve. Or you notice the environment around you and go, I don't belong here. This ain't the place that I need to be. I'm out.
Yeah.
So it, you you only know what you know, right?
Yeah.
If you're not aware of what's going on around you, if you're not aware of the things in your life that are causing an issue, you're not going to be able to improve. So hopefully this highlights that for some people. If it helps one person, then we've done our job.
So. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I'll pump across it once in a while, and it inspires me to like, okay, I'm gonna do something. You know,
right?
That action that it takes a little bit sometimes. It takes something, external stimulus to get me into action.
Yeah, yeah. And once we're in action, right? Once we're moving, it tends to be easier to stay in movement. Not always, but
yeah,
more often than not, once we get that push start.
Yeah, then we try to make it a habit, right? Just like what you're talking about.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, well, this has been a fun talk. We'll have to chat more about this sometime. We'll maybe we'll get a panel on and we'll see what some other people are doing, because we have two opinions and two processes, and there are common threads here, but I am always curious what other people are doing.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing something, that's what matters.
Yeah. Usually the more people who share about an idea like this, the more I'll get something from all of them, or I'll get a little thing from each person, so that's a great idea.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thanks for being on, Bob. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know you're out relaxing with family, but I'm grateful that you made the time to come and enjoy and join in the conversation on the podcast. So thank you for coming along.
Thanks for having me on. That connectedness to the whole Appliance Alliance community has been really important to me lately. So thanks for hosting it and keeping it going. And hopefully I can give back all that I've received from you guys.
For sure. Well, we appreciate you, Bob. So for the Service Alliance podcast, that was a great podcast, guys. We hope that you'll join us next time. And if you haven't, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, help grow the channel, and help others get better. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.